What's going on, everybody? Riley Welch, owner of 92Social, and today's episode 5 of the podcast. And today's it's a good day because I have a really cool company. Eric from Twoque is here, and we'll discuss later in the podcast why I think it's so great. So, Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Riley.
Yeah. So, how's your quarantine going?
It's as my partner and I like to say, we haven't killed each other yet, so I think we're doing a great job.
Yeah, that's one step further. Yeah. So for people that don't know, what is Twoque?
Yeah, wonderful question. So, we like to say that at Twoque, we're in the business of spreading warmth. And, we do that in a number of different ways, but really what we're founded on is the one-for-one platform. So we've developed a company based on, we're in the fashion industry, and every item that we sell, we donate a similar item in kind to somebody else in need. And the idea for that stemmed from, understanding that we live in this wonderful, amazing country with lots of opportunity. And it's also cold, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
And, regardless of socioeconomic status, no one is susceptible, more so than anyone else from when it gets chilly out. And so, understanding the likes that 1 in 7 individuals, living in this country are currently living in poverty, or, over 200,000 people each year will not have a roof over their heads at some point. We figured maybe there's a way that we can not only offer something that's trusted and fashionable, but, as we like to say, every item sold is 2 heads warmed kind of thing.
No, that is why I one of the things that kind of stuck out for me when I was kind of looking through Instagram, which is how I look for everything now. Instagram is king. But yeah, no, it's great because I love toques. I'm a huge hat guy, and having a good toque during Canadian winter. I know we're in Toronto, but imagine people in like Saskatchewan or anywhere. It gets friggin' cold, so you need something to protect your dome. And so it's a great quality and a great company. Speaking about company, you are partnered with Ethan. How'd you guys meet?
Yeah, so my partner, Ethan Dassis, we actually met at summer camp almost 20 years ago, which actually makes, yesterday's announcement that there won't be summer camps this year a little devastating, because, we met as 13-year-olds, and, a friendship formed, and, doing communal activities, and then continued on over the years, strengthening that friendship. And, it's really something that I cherish, that we have so many shared memories, and that we can also, establish these forays into other such endeavors kind of thing.
That's so cool. Because from 13, and you're saying 20 years down, you're still best friends, you're still good friends. And that's how a lot of businesses start, is with, close people that kind of share the similar goals, a similar attitude, and kind of like, you know what, let's just start something. So what made you guys start Twoque out of, let's say, something else?
Yeah, fantastic question. So the fact is, as I said, we've known each other for a long time, and we've also dabbled on different projects, varying in different levels of creativity and whatnot. So where it all begins is, Ethan and I, we had been keeping in closer contact over the years, and about 2 years ago. So to preface, by day I work in education. I work as a high school teacher. And in one of my classes, I was given an end of year project, like the final culminating task. And the idea was to come up with a business. And because we were in 2018, because the world is quickly changing, I wanted to have my students think about, moving the world forward. So the goal with their businesses would be that it either had to be sustainability focused or not for profit, or it could be a social enterprise. So a for-profit endeavor, but something that did a socially conscious goal. And so my students said, "Hey, that's great, Mr. Saltzman, but can you give us an example?" And so as I said, we're talking about February, March at the time. Ethan and I, who live downtown Toronto, unfortunately, I need only walk a block or two away from my home to see a slew of individuals who find themselves on the streets every day. And to be honest with you, Riley, we're, putting the idea back and forth, and it came down to a simple equation. that, 1 + 1 = Twoque. And this idea that, we could do something where, everybody could benefit, both the customer and, the future client. Everybody could come out on top.
I gotta say that was that idea that it's so Canadian. 1 + 1 is Twoque. Oh, right on. Yeah, that's how I started with my bit, like the name. I was like, okay, I want like, or the colors. I was like, okay, I want something, cool, something great. I'm like, oh, how about Canada? Canada
Yeah,
colors.
there you go.
Right. Ah, that was easy. Yeah. And of course, it always involves Tim Hortons somehow. Somehow it does. But yeah, so you're saying you started it. You were saying 2 years ago, came up with the idea. That's a really cool way of coming up with a company. But as a small business or as a young business being seasonal, what are the biggest challenges that you face?
Yeah, it's funny. It's that I could answer the question, as both a young company and a seasonal company, or indifferently of one another, as a young company and as well being a seasonal company. Obviously things have changed a little bit for everybody given the circumstances we find ourselves in, and so our biggest our biggest fight is sort of saying, hey, we are relevant all year round, right? Like, so just because there's not snow on the ground, which by the way, in Toronto, it snowed on November 11th and it snowed on May 11th. So, that quickly becomes 6 months of winter. But then also saying that, like, hey, when else would I need a warmer item? Maybe it's camping in the summer, maybe it's, there's skater culture where, it's fashionable to wear a toque in the summer kind of thing, and continuing to build out and expand into different markets that exist, while also, and this is part of the young company, making sure that, more than anything, you're respecting achievable growth and you're not aiming too high too fast, and understanding who you are, building your wheelhouse and building your clientele, so that way your story and what you're after, in terms of when you're ready to grow, you are in fact ready to grow.
You said it. There's a lot of conversations that I have with other business owners or other people that before starting my company, did a lot of research on just growth. How do people, take the next step? How do people kind of, do it? And what I realized is a longevity. It's a long-term game plan. So like you said, one, being self-aware, knowing who you are and what your company is, and then also being ready and not grow quickly to burn out later on. And yeah, no, that is definitely something that is someone's one of my old hockey coaches, keeping on the Canadian subject.
There we go.
Taught me that is where take your time. There's no race. It'll happen when it'll happen, and it's something that I always tell people in conversations where they're like, oh, how do I do this? How do I do this? I'm like, just take your time. Things will grow, and then what you were saying, once you're ready to grow, once you give them that opportunity, that in your heart, in your mind, that you are ready, and you won't freak out or to phase out. But in the apparel business in Canada, how do you stay on top of trends? Because it's always changing.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, it changes far quicker than I could ever keep up with. And I think what Ethan and I set out to do initially was, like, we wanted to make a product that we would wear, and I think it starts with that. And then, honestly, how I keep on top of things is I look at people. I watch people passing by. Particularly what's on their head. And I say, does that interest me? Do I like that color? Do I like that style? And then I'll go online and I'll take a look at what the stores are offering. Back in the old days when we could go to the mall, you could travel in and out of stores pretty freely and see what's going on, and most importantly, finding out price points of everything to say, well, you know what, is this what we are, to the question a moment ago, is this what we should be striving for, or can I do this at a better rate, or in a better way, or always trying to consider innovation while also respecting the idea that, like, hey, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's a pretty good invention. Kind of things like that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, again, it's being self-aware and knowing the industry, knowing you were saying you're walking, it comes down to as simple as looking at people, what do they want, and that's how I approach a few things. It's not how necessarily what I want, it's what the people want, And it's kind of like predicting the future in a way where you start to see something, okay, maybe this is a thing. And then again, comes to pricing and all those little factors. But yeah, so with the off season or with when it's slow, how do you and Ethan kind of stay motivated? How do you kind of like say, you know what? I know we're not doing anything, but let's kind of like let's kill it.
Yeah, I don't suppose, have you been watching The Last Dance by chance?
Oh my God, yes. I just had to stress that mentality should be the Toronto Maple Leafs, but that's a different podcast.
Well, we won't get into that. That's a whole other podcast.
Oh yeah.
But like so effectively, Michael Jordan, who's widely considered the greatest basketball player of all time, it took him 7 years before he ultimately won a championship. And what did he do in the off season every single year? He worked on an element to improve himself, to improve his game. And not that by any stretch I'm trying to compare my company to being, the one of the greatest in the world, not yet. But I think it's important that like during this quote unquote off season, we say to ourselves, okay, how do we improve? How can we become more efficient? What sort of practices have we been doing that we can improve upon? Obviously, it comes down to we need to prepare for next year. So having time on our side is certainly a good thing. But really more important than anything else is using the time wisely to get opinions, take surveys and understand, okay, we did this and this yielded this. In what ways would we be better served to use that time or to use that energy, and how can we make sure on the back end, say, you and I connected just a couple weeks ago, and that's because we've decided to improve upon our social media, and these are the types of opportunities that stem. So really being aware of putting oneself out there and saying, okay, it's our off season, but it doesn't mean it's not a season at all, right?
Yeah, I think you should coach the Maple Leafs because that's exactly what they should be doing. See Austin Matthews and Freddie Anderson having having a good time in Arizona. But yeah, no, that's a great answer. And everyone's different when they're looking for motivation, that they're looking for inspiration. How do they keep going? It's all about having that championship mentality. Yeah, your business is probably not like a Michael Jordan, but as long as you have that mentality where it's like, yeah, one day, but how do I get there? What do I have to do? Is one of the key factors of a successful business. And so when it comes to the hats, the toques, what is the process? Like, take us from idea to out of the box.
Yeah, for sure. And I, as I said a moment ago, we certainly by no means are trying to reinvent the wheel. I don't know how the camera looks. I got one of our hats on my head, kind of thing. But so let me take you back a couple of years ago. So we had nothing, only an idea, and so over the course of that next summer, we had to find appropriate manufacturers. We had to get cut and sew. We had to find charitable partners. We've improved upon the process since then. So now what happens is we go into our off season with a general goal in mind, a general premise, and of course we have to take what the world gives us, and work with it accordingly. And we'll say, okay, so I want to include this style, or I want to include this color. And what I'll do is I'll go around and I'll find similar styles. I'll find similar material that I'm liking, styles, and literally that involves me, again, back in the days when you could go to the mall, with a little tape measure and finding, what is the dimension of this hat? What do I like so much about it? What about these socks am I intrigued by? Finding out what actual content there is behind it, and then sending that kind of information along to my manufacturer, who we have a wonderful manufacturer who's really taken care of us in the last year. And my hope is they will continue. And then they'll send us, the first draft basically, and we'll feel it out. We'll try it on. We'll take it for a test run, send it back in. They'll probably turn into another sample, and we'll, pick out the color patterns, and then we'll go into process, which could take, between 6 to 10 weeks. And ultimately, when we get the boxes that show up in, at the office, then it's time to take some photos, and it's really funny how it's not a live thing until you have a model wearing a hat, and then it's on the website, and we're ready to go.
Is that one of your successful moments where you're like, all your hard work, it's like, yeah, I have I'm getting a toque, I'm creating a toque, but having a model or a person wearing it while you're doing like the promo shots, is that one of the like more defining moments of your company?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because that's the final piece of the puzzle, right? Like I know it exists. I'm holding it in my hand. I'm wearing it on my head. My mom has one. My dad has one. You know, the people who are sworn to support you no matter what. But then but then what happens is you actually, you know, you have somebody who is in real time trying it on, feeling it out, moving it around. You know, we're playing around with it on them, and then that breathes life into the company, because now we have a live website where, you know, as an online business predominantly, you know, somebody can actually purchase the product. And then when it's, you know, the first time when somebody you don't know purchases your product, you say to yourself, well, that's pretty cool, because that's even beyond what I set out to do, kind of thing.
Man, yeah, I can only imagine that feeling. And then maybe that feeling drives you, and this might go back to the inspiration or motivation part, but seeing that for the first time, that feeling that you get will drive you to do more and maybe expand your business when you're ready. But yeah, that's really, really cool. So you were saying you're a teacher. Have you always wanted to start your own business, or was it just one of those, yeah, I'm with my buddy, let's do it?
Well, can it be both? I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I probably am relatively, I guess, entrepreneurial driven by nature. You know, whether it's a successful venture or not, I'm intrigued by the process. I sort of like to look at things as one big case study, and you know, the learn by doing kind of aspect to it. You know, when I got into teaching several years ago, did I think to myself that I would be working towards winter fashion apparel? You know, it wasn't the first thing on my mind, but I'm such a firm believer that in this life, you know, one door closes, another door opens, or vice versa, and you just keep following the signs as they're given to you, and um, you know, not in a spiritual sense necessarily, but just you know, an opening of yourself up to opportunity when it presents itself.
You're saying the words that I've been saying. Is that you have to seize the opportunity when you get that opportunity, because you never know when that will come around. You never
Well,
know.
and only you're gonna know, right? Like, so
Exactly.
whether it's your business, my business, or another one, it's, you know, these opportunities come up for various reasons, and sometimes it's best not to ask why and just follow through.
Yeah, because again, if it fails, you know, you learn. You learn an experience, and maybe next time you take another role, you're like, oh well, I know, I have an idea what to do because I've experienced something else. But you mentioned the Jordan documentary, but any businesses or any CEOs kind of like you look towards? Like for me, it's Ryan Serhant. He's a real estate agent, but he just spews good things, good positivity, and things like that nature. So anyone that catches your mind?
Yeah, I think for myself, it's probably Blake Mycoskie, who is the founder of Tom's, right? He's the one who invented this one for one model. And I came upon him a couple of years ago. Like obviously I'd known what Tom's was, and it's been around for quite some time now. But it was really listening to his backstory and finding out, you know, he had started about 4 different businesses before Tom's, and the reasoning behind what he was doing and the platform of the one for one model, which was then followed by, say, you know, the guys at Warby Parker, who's now, you know, those are the only glasses that I buy. Just because, you know, these are individuals, these are people who have taken an idea, found an inefficiency in the market, improved upon it, while also trying to fulfill a much larger need at the same time. And like, in theory, if all businesses operated in some semblance of this way, then, you know, we could certainly distribute a lot more, you know, opportunity and a lot more um, industry to folks around the world.
See, that's really cool, and it kind of like one for one, and it has a good feeling for me as a consumer looking at your company. I'm like, it makes you feel good, makes you feel like inspired. Like, you know, I love this. We need more companies like you guys in the world. But also, you guys partner with charities every year. Um, and so, what do you look for in a charity when you're out looking for one?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So you know, it's tremendously important for us to find a partner who can do the best with what we're going to give them, while simultaneously giving us opportunities to be a part of what they do. So a couple of years ago, for our first season, we partnered with, they're called the Christie Ossington Neighborhood Center. And so they operate a couple of different shelters and community centers in the West and downtown Toronto. And they offer a lot of programming to a lot of different ages and a lot of different clientele. And that was something that's, it's pretty nearby our office. It's pretty nearby where we grew up. This is something that we can see the impact on. And, to tie it all together, I was even able to take one of my classes one morning to go help out with the setup of, the community center they were building. So it's great to tie those two worlds together. And for this year, we partnered with an organization called Vea Hafta. And what they're most well known for, they're a humanitarian organization where they have a commercial van that goes out about 6 nights of the week, and they deliver food and clothing and hygiene products to folks who are living rough around the city, or sometimes out of respite houses or different shelters. And they actually, what makes them so interesting is they get to know, they refer to those people as clients, right? So they get to know the clients and find out what their needs are and how to get them off the street moving forward. So we've been able to volunteer on the van a few times, come to a few volunteer activities. And again, being Toronto-based guys ourselves, that's really important. So when we're looking for our next charitable partner or partners, because we're certainly open to servicing as many folks as we can, we want it to be something where their mission aligns with our own, but also that, it's something that we ourselves can feel invested in, as though, so that it's not just, oh, here are your hats at the end of the year. It's something that we can really say, okay, we see what you do. We know how you operate, and let us make this small contribution in our modest way, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's a great answer. That's awesome. And so you're saying you want to service Toronto as much as you can. Let's say it goes nationwide. It pops, and I'm sure it will. What is the? I know it's kind of hard to pinpoint one charity or one organization. Is there one nationwide charity that you would love to partner in the near future?
That's a really interesting question. Of course, we want to be not just nationwide, we want to be global, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, organizations that we know are renowned, this is just off the top of my head, like a United Way, for instance. Certainly, we've, in one of our last posts, we tried to plug Canada Helps, because that is an organization that links you to other organizations where you can best put your money towards what you see fit. So just sort of like off the top of my head, or it would also be great to partner with, perhaps a sports organization that had a wide reach, for these teams, the Raptors or the Blue Jays that have now become, Canada's team. What sort of ways could we impact folks across the community while, also focusing on things that we love, right?
Well, that's a good point, because with the Jays, they do the Winterfest. They do that.
That's right.
Winter tour. So if you somehow, Blue Jays, if you're listening, I'm talking to you, okay? If you're doing
them on the line,
put them on the line. That'd be amazing. That'd be perfect. But yeah, so as a company, you're trying to get your name out there. You're trying to use every avenue, like promo events. I've seen on your website that you had a few events that you're out and about trying to display your mission statement. And I've been part of that industry too. And there's a lot of stories, good stories and bad, or funny stories, not bad, funny stories. Is there any stories that kind of, that you can think of? I know this is on top of your head, but any like feel good stories or something that are like people come up like, oh, thank you for this hat, this is amazing, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's as you say, and from experience, it's you go to these events, you go to these trade shows or these local markets, and you get to interact with hundreds, if not thousands, of people. And not only do we get to tell our story, but we get to hear people's stories. Sometimes, we might be doing an event outdoors and it's the winter, and somebody is literally buying a toque for somebody they saw who's just down the street looking like they're not doing so well. So certainly we get instances like that. Sometimes we're contacted about an event, and then it turns out somebody really digs what we're doing, so they want to buy hats for their whole office, kind of thing like that. So the folks who really get what we're after, that's important to us. And also, one thing that we offered this past year was what we call like a buyback program. So, there were instances we'd be talking to folks and I'd say, well, I'll tell you what, if you gave me that toque on your head, I'll give you this fresh one and we'll, knock X amount of percent off the sale kind of thing. And people were like remarkably receptive to that as well, because, it was like, oh, okay, like I don't need this anymore. We can turn giving into the next iteration of it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's ooh, that's a good story. That's a real good story. Yeah, because I was in my mind, I was like, oh, I have so many funny stories. Well, this guy did that. Granted, I did it for a radio station, so two different audiences. But yeah, it's you meet so many people, and you do have great stories, and it's always inspiring to hear other people like their life story, and maybe that in fact that inspires you or somehow gets around your company. I'm like, you know what? I talked to this guy, and now it opens my mind to a broader thing. Like you were saying, the buyback. That's a great idea for people that are in need of a token. Like, you know what? If you can't afford it, I can give me yours. I can knock down this. It's really, really cool. We're at this part of the podcast where for 92 Social Podcast, the mission statement is just connecting businesses with the community. In a time like this, it's crazy and everyone's been affected in some way. And I always ask my guests on the podcast, would you like to shout out any businesses that you enjoy? That could be a bakery, a grocery store, or anything along those lines.
Oh man, yeah, cool. There's a couple of organizations not unlike our own. One of them is called Street Brew Coffee, and it's owned by a father and daughter, and local. They give a portion of their proceeds to charity as well. Really really nice folk, really kind individuals who deserve all the best. Another one is a company called Sock Footage. And this is an individual named Marissa, who she does the one for one as well. But she does socks, which is a very important need, and all seasons, which is great. And you know what I mean? I guess I honestly, I live at Bathurst in College, and I just walk by so many stores, so many restaurants that I'm worried about. So honestly, I wish them all the best, because I used to be in that industry, and in the spirit of small businesses to small businesses, we're all in this together as a global society, and I wish everybody the best. Really, I do.
Again, we share the same mindset, because I live in Liberty Village, and just going down Queen Street West is like,
Mm-hmm.
so many. That's why I love Toronto. I know it's very Toronto hectic or podcast, but I don't care. I love Toronto. All right. But you go down Queen Street West, and there's so many mom and pop shops that, restaurants or just anything, coffee shops, and they're great. They're phenomenal, but you worry about them in a time like
Mm-hmm.
this. And I was out and about last weekend, and I was looking for like a cup of coffee, and I was just saying to my girlfriend, I'm like, let's just go to a mom and pop shop, not a Tim Hortons, not a McDonald's, just someone that, one, needs help, two, it's a good coffee, so might as well go for it. And you said it's a small business. They're all the entrepreneurs, small business owners are like in a community. I always like to think it's a community helping each other, supporting each other in a time like this. It's crucial. And that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast. If I had the tools, I would love to do it, and I would love to support one another. And so on that note, it's time to plug. It's plug-in time. So say what you want to say. The floor is yours.
Oh, wow. All right. First off, Riley, thanks so much for having me. And on behalf of Ethan and myself, this has been a blast, just a real pleasure. And, to folks in our network, or perhaps future folks in our network, please know we like to consider ourselves like a doors always open company. And, we're hoping to put out a new line of products this upcoming, fall season. And, really coming back to it all, we hope that we can continue to spread warmth not just physically, but emotionally as well. And I think this is a time we could all use it. So hey, here's hoping that that we can work together to make that happen.
Right on, man. Thank you very much for coming on, Eric. It was a great conversation with a great company, and all his social media will be down below with his website, everything that was mentioned before, even the Blue Jays. Talking to you. I'll tag you guys. Yeah, everything will be down below. If you guys are interested to coming on the 92Social podcast, my email will be down below, or send me a message on Instagram or my personal Instagram, Grapesy Welch. Go on and get that done. And remember, guys, we're all in this together. Let's support every business, all the small businesses, because that this is what we do. This is Canada. This is a great country. Let's support and let's get through this. I'll see you next time.